At the title of our conference this morning, and it talks about uh, maximum achievement in education and character education. The introduction I'll be giving you lays more emphasis on character education. Probably the reason that is the case is because Mann Rentoy is the head of a character education group that he's setting up. And he asked me to help us contextualize the conference we have this morning. The problem with education is like the problem of citizenship. Today, the official emphasis in our curriculum is on math, languages, and science. And the observation that I and my colleagues have about this is the following. That the grade school and high school teachers in the Philippines spend a lot of time trying to improve their education of math, science, and the languages so that their students can migrate. It seems ironic habang naghihirap naman yung bayan. I would think that we would like to improve our teaching and the math, the languages, and the science of our students so that they can help our country. Now, of course, the subject in our curriculum which addresses that in particular is social studies. But the truth is, any teacher can and should be a teacher of civic education. Why am I bringing this up? If we teach our students to do good math, do good English and Filipino, and good work in science, but we don't teach them to love their country, they will leave. They will leave. They are not going to remain here. And so it is so important to teach yung pag-ibig sa tinubuang bayan. And we should not and cannot really leave this only to the social studies teachers. Well, the slides I'm going to go through this morning address that point. I will tell you right now that they are taken from a much longer lecture that takes around an hour and a half. I usually give this lecture, well, my group, to public school teachers in high school. So, I will try to compress them into 30 minutes, of which I've already lost a few. I think probably the perspective we can get this morning is kung ano po yung mga problema ng ating bayan. No? Not the problems that you will read about in the newspapers, but the deeper ones. Which, on the other hand, I think everybody here in this room is aware of. No? So that as teachers, we contextualize our work. I don't think it is something to be proud of to prepare students for other countries. We want to prepare them, first of all, for our country. Right, the first slide, please. I would have wanted to handle this by myself, but mukhang walang remote. Right, the Philippines is not yet a nation. It is a nation in progress. Please take that literally. If we compare ourselves to other nations in Asia, we are not teenagers. We are babies. This is an important point because we love to complain about our country and about our government as though we were a nation that had been around for centuries. We are not like China or Japan. And many of our complaints are unfair. It's like expecting grade school students to act like high school students. It's unfair. No? And that is the point of this first slide. Ibig sabihin, there are certain characteristics about our country, no, which we are not happy with because it is only developing. Patungo pa lamang siya sa ganap na pagkabayan. And as usual, we teachers play a very important role in this aspect. Okay, next slide. Okay, I want to prove to you, no, that we were not a nation even as early as 1896 or 1898. Just one question. We're talking about the revolution of Bonifacio, of course. This year we celebrate his 150th anniversary. No? Now, as you know, that revolution started in August 1896 and it ended December 1897. No? It was a revolution which involved only, let me repeat the adverb, only the Tagalogs and the Pampangos. And the reason why we can say that is because it's in our flag. The rays of the sun, we are told, were the Tagalog provinces and Pampanga. You know, none of the other ethnic groups joined it. From August 1896 up to December 1897. There were no battles among the Ilocanos, the Bicolanos, the Cebuanos, the Ilonggos, the Ibanags. Ang tanong ko po lamang, bakit natin tinatawag na Philippine Revolution? Nakakatakot pong sabihin, no? That hindi siya sinuportahan ng mga ibang bayan sa Pilipinas. But that is the truth. And I think it's a very important question to ask. Now, you have another bullet point here. I hope you're able to read what's on the right side. It talks about the 1898 revolution. As you know, all the provinces in Luzon joined Aguinaldo. But in the Visayas, only some towns in Leyte and Samar and a few in Panay joined Aguinaldo. No? What's more important is the following. 1898 is the year when the independence of the Philippines was proclaimed. And shortly after, we had the so-called Malolos Republic. But 1898 is also the year of the Republic of Negros. That was when it was proclaimed, November 1898. That same month, in Iloilo, the federal state of the Visayas was also proclaimed. And not many people know, but in Cuyo, Palawan, the Republic of Lukbuan was proclaimed. So in other words, in 1898, there were 4 republics in the Philippines. Of course, the 3 other republics, you will not read about it in our textbooks. My point is this, even in 1898, I don't think you could call the Philippines a nation. Hindi tayo nagkakaisa. That's the point here. Hindi tayo nagkakaisa. Right. I am running out of time. So, let me see. Can we have the next slides? Right. I don't think I can tackle that. Next. 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 Sige pa. Sige pa. Sige pa. Susunod. No? Okay, we can pause here. If you have relatives in the U.S., you probably know that there is no active Filipino association. What you have that is very active in the U.S. is associations of Ilocanos, Boholanos, Pampangos, and so on. No? Di ba? And all the sociologists tell us that Filipinos usually love their ethnic group more than their country. No? Now, I will say this thing. When you hear that, your reply has to be, mabuti na lamang. Thank God we are regionalistic. Why? Because regionalism is a recent phenomenon in the Philippines. You do not find regionalism before the 20th century. What do you find? You have love of the town. And before that, love of the barangay. So, mabuti po yung pagmamahal sa sariling rehiyon. Because we are going up the evolution, social evolution, little by little. The next stage will be love of country. No? But I would like to call your attention to that, no? Because wherever you come from, you have to be sensitive to that. Nasa aling antas ba ang aking mga estudyante? Do they have a barangay mentality, which means to say, ang iniisip lamang nila yung kanilang pamilya? Or do they have a town mentality, yung iniisip lamang nila is the town where they come from? Do they have a regionalistic mentality, which is better? They're already thinking of everybody who talks the same language as they do. And then the last one is a nationalistic mentality. No? Okay. Let's go to the slide, please, which is on pag-ibig sa tinubuang bayan. No? Sige pa. Nagmamadali tayo eh. Okay, here we go. Yung pag-ibig sa tinubuang bayan, no, starts with love for one's family. If you do not love your family, you cannot love your country. No? I gave this lecture in Tarlac, and the city administrator came to thank me for it. Because she said, aktivista siya, nasa bundok siya dati. And then, she got married, she had 2 children, and then kinausap siya ng commander nila. Sabi sa kanya, alam mo, bayan muna, you're spending too much time with your children. So she left the movement. What she did was to join the government of Oca Rodriguez, no? Used to be the mayor of San Fernando, now he's a congressman, and he used to be also in the mountains, no? And her gut feel as a mother and as a Filipina was, you cannot have a conflict between love of family and love of country. They are branches of the same tree. And so that's the point that I want to make now. No? You cannot love your country if you do not love your family. Then the next point is you cannot love your community if you do not love your family. Next. And you cannot love your region if you do not love your community. Next. And you cannot love your country if you do not love your region. In that order. It's very important. Because now, the family is under attack. I am not referring to the RH bill. I'm referring to a worldwide phenomenon. In fact, probably worse than the RH bill is the OFW movement as far as the families are concerned. And all you have to do is to take a look at all the movies that have been produced in the last 15 years with Sharon Cuneta or with Vilma Santos or with Pok Kwang or with Nora Honor, and you will see, ganun ang ganun yung punto nila. No? Under siege yung pamilya because of the OFW movement. No? Well, here is my proposal to you. Obviously, this has all sorts of implications with regard to character education. But may I repeat what I said in the beginning? If we do not teach our children to love their country, you are teachers working for the United States of America and working for the European Union, and you're not getting paid by them. Because all our students will just migrate. No? no? The better we teach them. So we have to get them to love their country. But we cannot just bring out the Philippine flag and start waving it. No, love of country means pag-ibig sa pamilya. Tapos pag-ibig sa tinubuang pamayanan. Pag-ibig sa tinubuang rehiyon. And then finally, pag-ibig sa tinubuang bayan. Right, let me jump to the next thesis. The Philippines is not yet a democracy. Sige pa. Sige pa. We'll skip that. These are all recognizable to you. Sige pa. All right, there we go. Ito, malaking problema natin. I'm not telling you anything new. Alam natin itong lahat. When we were in college, or at least my generation, I think there are some here of my generation, ang tawag dyan, feudalismo. No? Okay, next. This is traditional Philippine society, no? Before the Spaniards came. There were two tiers. On top, you had the Dato and the Maginoo. Tapos sa ibaba, yung Timawa, and then aliping namamahay, aliping sagigilid. No? So, very quick review of history. Yung aliping sagigilid, ito yung alipin na nakatira sa bahay ng Maginoo o ng Dato. Yung aliping namamahay, ito yung alipin na may sariling bahay. But he gave a share of his harvest to the Dato or the Maginoo. And then the Timawa was a freelancer. Usually he was a warrior. And he chose the Dato or Maginoo that he would work for. No? Next. Okay. Hindi pantay-pantay ang tao. That is a characteristic of the society. Two tiers. No? Next. Society is held together by vertical loyalties. Ibig sabihin, pag wala kang Dato or Maginoo behind you, kawawa ka. Your life is in danger. Kailangan kang maghanap ng Dato or Maginoo. Okay, next slide. This is my version, modern version of traditional society. Yung top player, yung mayor at saka yung mayayaman. Yung second layer, the goons, the workers, the domestic help. Nilagay ko yung domestic help dyan because they live in the house of the amo. But normally, they are not paid professionally. To be paid professionally, they have to go to New York. So parang aliping sa gigilid yan. And then I put the workers there. I have the kasama in mind, yung mga sakada, because they give a share of the harvest to their amo or the hasendero. Or the opposite. They give everything to him and then he gives them a little bit. Okay? And then I put the goons because whenever you see mayor always has bodyguards. These are the modern day Timawas. No? In fact, Randy David was telling our university that the Philippines has the biggest number of security guards in the whole world, 400,000. Because those are the Timawas. Okay. Now, on top you have the mayor and rich families. Okay. Ang tawag din natin dyan, cronies. And then I put there, traditional society, because I'm using traditional in the same way that we talk about trapo. Yung dun sa trapo is traditional. But some people think traditional, dahil nagsimula yan sa panahon ni Quezon. Of course not. Nagsimula yan nung panahon ng mga Kastila, natuto kasi tayo sa kanila. Of course not. This is ancient. Okay. Next slide. Right. Civil society in contrast. Pantay-pantay ang tao. Okay. Society is held together by horizontal loyalties. This concept of society, itong civil society, completely new. Kailan nagsimula? Panahon ni Rizal. It's still going on now. Inatawag natin civil society movement. Still going on now. And people who are in the NGOs related to this, they know it's not an easy fight. Next. The seed is the educated class. Usually, the people in the civil society movement are precisely us. Yung mga nagtapos ng high school or college. Bagong Pilipinas ang nasa isip natin. But we are in the minority. Why do we know that? Because we always lose in the elections. Yung mga civil society candidates, laging naandyan, and then we go, we give voters education, etc. And then when the results come out, hindi. Nanalo yung 70%. Kasi yung middle class, which is where the educated class comes from, they're just 30%. The 70%, siguro ang isip niyan feudal or semi-feudal. I'm telling you, the future of the Philippines is in our hands. And we better make sure that we know what society we are improving our teaching methods for. Next. Result. Next. Okay, this is the Philippines. In the tourist brochures, we call ourselves a democracy. That's the shell. You crack open the shell, anong nasa loob? Yung traditional society. Alam natin yan. Okay. Yan ang kailangan nating palitan. Next. The biggest obstacle to the attainment of a civil society is the alipin mentality among the poor and the Maginoo mentality among the rich and powerful. Kasi po, itong dalawang mentality na ito, they do not believe that people are equal. Pag alipin ka, well, you believe that andito lamang ako. Hindi ko kaya yung mga nasa taas. If you have Maginoo mentality, you believe that you are higher than the others, no? Next. The alipin mentality is a mentality of dependency. Meaning to say, you will not survive in society through your merits. For that, you have to go to America. How will you survive in society? Connections. So, what is the biggest sign of this? Ang mga binyag at kasal, the sponsors, they're always politicians or the boss in the office. Because importante yung ninong. Hindi yung sariling husay. Not always, but many times. The Maginoo mentality is a mentality of privileges. Mayaman ako, mayor ako, bakit ako pipila? Bakit ako magbabayad ng buwis dyan? And so on. Those are the two mentalities we're talking about. Next. Our problem today. Yung alipin mentality, no, dependency, it breeds lack of initiative. Sabi niya, bakit ako magsisimula ng business, magbibigay lamang ako ng pera sa BIR, sa police, sa customs? Wag na lang. It cannot be. Kaya karamihan ng ating entrepreneurs sa Pilipinas, they're Chinese. And if they're not Chinese, they are women. Where are the men? So it can breed laziness. And then, if you have Maginoo mentality, the privileges, then you start asking for exemption from the law and even exemption from ethics. And we know this, no? If you are really rich and powerful, you will not end up in jail, or you will be in jail only for a short time. Okay? So the result of this is, click please, poverty. Click, corruption. And, from the surveys of the World Bank and other NGOs, we know that these are the two biggest problems we have in the country. Poverty and corruption. I'm sorry, but we cannot improve our teaching methods to support such a society. And that's why character education is so important. It is so important. Next. Right, this is the problem. People do not have only the Alipin mentality or only the Maginoo mentality. Next. They have both. Click. So, I'll give you a fictional story. It's the afternoon, middle class home, yung mga maids nagwawalis sa labas, pagkatapos yung hardinero nagdidilig, yung driver nasa lilim, nagpapahinga. Tapos sasabihin ng driver dun sa hardinero, "Shh, shh, pakihugas." Question, will the hardinero wash the car? Answer, of course he will. Because doon sa mga grupo ng mga alipin, and the HR people here know this, laging may Maginoo. Always. Tapos darating yung amo. Pagpasok niya, tatayo ngayon yung driver. Sabi niya, ay, bossing. Nagbago yung boses. Siguro even the way he stands, nagbago. In a matter of seconds, yung Maginoo naging alipin. Kasi yung ating mentality, alipin and Maginoo, situational. Depende kung sinong kausap mo. We have to change that. Kaya, I've been a teacher all my life, no? We are surprised, we should not be surprised. Yung student, napaka-humble pagkausap natin. Then we hear, bully pala. It's not surprising. Di ba ganun yun eh? Ganun yun eh. Kaya hirap na hirap yung character education teachers, values education teachers. Because what they see is not necessarily what the students are outside the classroom. We change depending on the situation. Now, if those people were in Europe or America, they would probably be called walang character. Kasi parang doble cara. Pabago-bago. But we are Filipinos, we understand them. They come from our old traditional society, which we are trying to get rid of little by little. And the way we will do this is through character education. Next. What is at issue? Sensitivity to human dignity. That's what's at issue. So sa atin, basta mayaman, they can get away with it. That's the problem. We notice that every year when we give voter education. Sabi, wag nyo iboboto si ganito. Ganyan yan. Ganitong ginagawa niyan. They don't listen. Because in their minds, of course, pwede nilang gawin yan because they're there on top. Sila yung mayor. Sila yung presidente. Senador siya. We excuse them. That's our culture. If you are there, Maginoo, you're allowed certain behaviors which are not allowable in the alipin. No? And that's why the voter education, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What will work is what we do in the classroom because now they are with us 13 years, K to 12. Okay? That's fantastic. We can do something about their character. No? All right, let's jump to, I just have 4 minutes. The squatter mentality. Ayan. I was talking to a graduate of ours na galing ng squatters. No? So, itong phrase, squatter mentality, yung isip squatter, galing sa kanya, galing sa taong lumaki dun sa squatter community. And he talked about these 4 characteristics. One is fatalism. No? Na pag may umasenso sa kanila, tapos uuwi, bibisita dun sa squatter community, ang dami nang nakapila early to get money or something, anything. And they are there with a sense of entitlement. Dapat kami bigyan. Pag tinan mo kung bakit, sasabihin, sinwerte ka lang. Hindi sila naniniwala sa trabaho. Sinwerte ka, kaya ka mayaman, kaya bigyan mo kami. Fatalism. Luck, not hard work. But in our character education classes, we want them to see, no, you will improve as a human being because of your own work. Little education. Sabi niya, sir, hindi ako naniniwala dyan that Filipinos love education. Kasi nakikita ko dun sa community namin. Kahit na hindi magtapos ng high school yung bata, okay lang sa kanila. Yun ang sabi niya. No sense of the future. Because they would spend most of their time playing tong-its and other games instead of working. Bingo. May bumulong dito. And then instant gratification. Oh, may pera, gastahin na natin, baka mawala pa yan. How will we change that? Nakakatakot ito eh. Because is this mentality limited to the squatters or do you find it also outside the cities? I'm afraid that maybe you also find it outside the cities. That means to say they are in our classrooms. And that's the mentality we have to change. So, I should end. Let me repeat with what I keep on repeating. Let's not improve our skills and our teaching aids if all we will support is this kind of society. We have to teach them to love the Philippines. And then we have to make sure that they are people of character. Otherwise, ginamit lang tayo. Kinasangkapan. And that cannot be. And so we know that as teachers, we have to have a vision which goes beyond the classroom and focuses on people. No? How will you translate character education into your native language? I think that's an exercise that's important. If you cannot translate yung sasabihin sa inyo ngayong umaga, hindi pang Pilipinas yan. Kailangang makita natin ang malinaw. So, I looked up character in the English-Tagalog Dictionary of Other English. Dalawa yung translation niya. Pagkatao at saka ugali. Alam mo, iba siya yung character education pag sinabi mo, edukasyon ng pagkatao. Ba, malalim. Malalim siya. At yung pagkatao ng tao, laging may social dimension yan. And part of that social dimension is belonging to a nation. Many of our students don't realize that. Or they realize it, mababaw lamang yung kanilang realization. Hindi malalim. Okay, let me end there. Thank you.